What happens when a casual sit-down with a comedian turns into a tense showdown? That's exactly what unfolded when Prince Harry appeared on What Now with Trevor Noah. The set was warm and inviting, designed to feel like a friend's living room, soft armchairs, a low table with mugs and scattered books and lamps. Trevor opened with his trademark charm, introducing Harry as a prince, a husband, a father, and someone who constantly makes headlines. Harry walked onto the set with a controlled smile, shook Trevor's hand, and sat back in his chair, projecting calm even as the spotlight bore down. Trevor tried to start lightheartedly, joking about surviving LA traffic and congratulating Harry for making it to the studio. A ripple of laughter ran through the crew, but Harry remained unmoved. "It wasn't that hard," he said curtly. "I've dealt with worse than traffic." The mood shifted as Trevor continued with playful banter. When asked how life in America was treating him, Harry countered with a statement about how he had been elevating the country, claiming his presence alone brought influence and attention. Trevor raised an eyebrow in mock surprise, trying to ease the tension. But Harry's tone left no room for joking. Trevor attempted to pivot, asking about family life and everyday routines, hoping to glimpse a relatable side. Harry dismissed it as tabloid fluff, insisting that nothing about his life was normal and that people didn't need to know about school drop-offs or breakfast mishaps. Trevor chuckled, trying to regain the lightness, noting that relatability helps people connect, even in the world of celebrities. But Harry remained steadfast, unapologetic, and unrelenting, leaving the conversation feeling more like a confrontation than a friendly chat. People often assume life in the royal family is all palaces and privilege. But for Harry, it was a world defined by control, pressure, and a lack of freedom, a miserable way to grow up. Trevor's expression softened. "That sounds heavy, man. I think people sympathize with that. Though some might argue you've benefited hugely from the system. 2 opportunities. Connections." Harry cut him off sharply. "So what? I was born into it. That doesn't mean I owe it gratitude. If anything, I owe myself for surviving it." Trevor blinked, then forced a laugh. "Well, I don't know about you, but I owe myself a lot of money if that's how it works. I survived public school lunches." The crew chuckled, but the tension remained. Harry offered no smile. Trevor pressed carefully. "Let me ask this, your mother, Princess Diana. She was beloved for her openness. Do you ever feel that same responsibility to be open with people who look up to you?" For the first time, Harry's smirk hardened into a glare. "Don't compare me to her. I'm not here to be some saint for the public. I'm not here to please anyone. If people don't like me, that's their problem." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Trevor leaned back slightly, his usual humor tempered with caution, shuffling his cards with a practiced smile that barely masked concern. As the first segment wrapped, Trevor thanked Harry for his candor, though the words sounded less sincere than usual. Behind the smiles, the room felt charged, and the once cozy living room set now resembled the opening round of a heavyweight fight. Gloves barely off, when the cameras rolled back. The warm light returned to the set, but Trevor's posture had changed. His stage-ready smile was there, yet his eyes betrayed the effort of navigating treacherous waters. "Welcome back to What Now? We're still here with Prince Harry," he began, smooth but cautious. "I have to say, man, you don't hold back. Which is good, my audience likes honesty. You should see them when I try to lie about being taller than The Rock. Doesn't work." The crew chuckled politely. Harry, however, leaned back and shrugged. "I've never needed comedy to make myself worth listening to." Trevor's smile froze briefly before he recovered. "Right? Good thing I do. Then, otherwise, I'd be unemployed." He let the joke drop gently and moved on. "So, let's talk about your life here in the States." You've mentioned finding peace in California. What's a typical day like? Harry scoffed. Typical. My days aren't typical. I don't wake up worrying about rent or catching a bus. I'm not living like everyone else, and frankly, I don't see why I should pretend I am. Trevor tilted his head, the joke forming instinctively. Okay, so if you were on a bus, the bus would need to bow to you before moving. The crew laughed loudly, relieved for the levity. Harry didn't even blink. If I were on a bus, it would probably make headlines. That's the reality of being me. Trevor's smile dimmed. Leaning forward, he tried a softer approach. I hear you, but don't you think part of why people tune in to conversations like this is to see ways you're like them? Even if we know you're not hopping on the subway every day, people want those small, human details. Harry waved his hand dismissively. People want too much. People want too much, Harry said, his voice sharp and cold. They think they're entitled to every scrap of my life. That's why I left Britain. Constant intrusion. I'm not here to feed curiosity. I'm here to speak on my terms. The tone had grown harsher, and Trevor felt the chill in the air. He shuffled his cards and tried to pivot. All right, let's go bigger then. When you look at the monarchy today, what do you see? Tradition, history may be something that still holds meaning for the people of the UK. Harry leaned forward, his words dripping with disdain. What I see is an outdated machine, a monarchy built on archaic rules and meaningless rituals. They dress it up as duty, but it's control. It's suffocating. Trevor pursed his lips, nodding slowly. That's heavy. But you know, some people would argue you've benefited from that same system. You had education, protection, a platform. Harry cut in sharply, his tone bordering on condescending. Benefited. That word gets thrown around far too easily. I didn't ask to be born into it. Any so-called benefit was just a leash being gilded. The crew shifted uneasily. Trevor tried to ease the tension. Well, for the record, if anyone wants to put me on a leash with gold, I'd at least like it to be 24 carats. The laugh that followed was weak, forced. Harry crossed his arms, unimpressed. Trevor pressed on. Let's talk about family. How's Megan? How are the kids? People are curious. Harry snapped. People are always curious. Too curious. My wife is fine. My children are fine. And frankly, I don't think their well-being is anyone's business but ours. The idea that I need to perform my family life for an audience is absurd. Trevor raised his hand in surrender. Fair enough. Even I try to keep my mom out of my routines, though she sneaks in anyway. But don't you think there's value in sharing a little so people feel connected? Harry leaned in, eyes narrowing. Connected. That's not what they want. They don't want connection, they want access. And I refuse to give it. The silence that followed was heavy, tense. Trevor tried one more light jab. Man, if this interview were a Tinder date, I think you just swiped left on the whole world. The crew chuckled, but Harry shook his head, smirking. Maybe the world deserved it. The laughter drained from the room. Trevor exhaled, tapping his cards against his knee. The casual atmosphere he'd worked so hard to maintain was slipping, and Harry seemed determined to dismantle every ounce of goodwill. Okay. Trevor said quietly, steadying himself. Let's shift again. Your mother, Princess Diana, was admired globally for her openness, for her willingness to be vulnerable. Do you feel you carry any of that legacy? Harry's eyes flashed. I'm tired of being compared to her. Everyone wants to put me in her shadow or measure me against her. She lived her life. I live mine. Stop trying to make me her replacement. Trevor hesitated. I wasn't trying to, Harry cut him off, voice rising. That's all anyone ever does. They talk about her as if I'm a copy, as if my choices should mirror hers. I'm not her. I don't owe anyone the comfort of that comparison. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Trevor swallowed, nodded, and pressed on. All right, that's clear. Let's move forward. Asterisk, but the warmth was gone. Trevor's jokes no longer landed. Harry's answers cut through the room, and the cozy set felt colder by the minute. Viewers at home weren't watching a candid conversation anymore. They were watching a slow-motion clash. Trevor could feel the tension curdling around him. The living room set felt claustrophobic, like two men trapped in an invisible ring. He shuffled his cards, hoping a question might unlock a softer side. But Harry had already made it clear, softness wasn't on the table. Asterisk Trevor leaned back, clasping his hands. A lot of people see you as someone who broke away, who redefined what it means to be part of the royal story. Do you see yourself as an outsider now, or are you still tied to that world in some way? Harry gave a dry laugh. No humor in it. Tied. The only thing I'm tied to is people like you asking me about it over and over again. I left. I don't look back. It's everyone else who can't let it go. Asterisk Trevor tilted his head, breathing steadily. Fair, but from the outside, it seems like you're still very engaged. Dinnerviews, books, Netflix deals. Some might say that's still looking back, just with a bigger paycheck. A smirk tugged at Harry's lips. Oh, is this the part where you pretend to be clever? I've heard this line 100 times. Using my platform isn't clinging to the past. Maybe you need better material. The remark landed hard, and Trevor chuckled, though the edges of his smile faltered. Better material, huh? I'll pass that on to my writers. But just to clarify, you don't think using your royal name while condemning the monarchy is a contradiction? Asterisk Harry crossed his arms. People should stop being obsessed with contradictions. Life is complicated. I don't need to fit into your neat little boxes. Trevor spread his hands. No neat boxes here, just a guy with questions. He pressed on. Speaking of complicated, your kids? Everyone wonders what kind of upbringing you want for them in America. Do you want them to feel part of that royal tradition, or cut off completely? Harry's jaw tightened. My children aren't a talking point for your show. They're not tabloid fodder. The fact you even ask proves how broken this whole system is. Asterisk Trevor held up his palms. Hey, I'm not the tabloids. I'm just the guy in the armchair across from you. People aren't asking to spy, they admire you. They admire Meghan. They want to know how you see the future. Harry's voice turned sharp. Admiration. Spare me. The public doesn't admire. They consume. And I'm not here to serve them anymore. The air thickened. Even the crew had stopped moving, eyes darting nervously between the two men. Trevor forced a light-hearted grin. Man, if I talked about my mom like that, she'd be in the comments section roasting me. But let's pivot. Meghan, how's she doing? How are you both balancing this spotlight? Harry rolled his eyes. There it is. The Meghan question. Because obviously I can't exist without her, right? Every conversation circles back to her like she's the only thing people want to hear about. I get it. She's glamorous, headline-worthy, but I'm not her shadow. Trevor let out a soft laugh. Honestly, most husbands would kill for that level of press. If my partner had that spotlight, I'd write it straight to free Netflix subscriptions. The crew chuckled weakly, but Harry leaned forward, voice firm. It's not funny. You joke, but you have no idea how suffocating it is. Meghan and I are constantly dragged into the spotlight, whether we ask for it or not. Trevor nodded slowly. I hear you. I really do. But from the outside, it sometimes looks like you lean into it. The Netflix series, the podcast, it's not exactly disappearing into the background. Harry's smirk returned, colder this time. So now you're lecturing me on how to live my life. Let me guess. You think I should fade quietly into obscurity because it makes everyone else more comfortable? Trevor smiled thinly, careful with his words. Not at all. I just think when you say you want privacy but keep making public appearances, people get confused. That's not judgment, it's reflecting what the audience is already thinking. Harry leaned back, folding his arms tightly across his chest. The audience can think whatever they want. I don't owe them clarity. I don't owe them anything. The statement landed like a slap. The silence that followed was thick, almost tangible, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. Trevor glanced toward the camera crew, then back at Harry. The joking mask slipping further. Asterisk, you know, Trevor said lightly, though his eyes had hardened. I thought this would be fun. A little banter, some laughs, maybe even a few surprises. Instead, it feels like I walked into a royal press conference with barbed wire around it. Harry didn't flinch. Maybe that's because you came in expecting me to play along. I don't play games anymore. Trevor leaned forward, setting his cards on the table. His voice remained calm, but a warning edge cut through it. It's not a game, man. It's a conversation. And right now, it feels like you're daring me to turn it into something else. For a heartbeat, neither man spoke. The room felt smaller, darker, as if the walls themselves were leaning in. Harry's lips twitched into a faint smirk, as though daring Trevor to push further. Trevor sat back slowly, crossing his legs. The smile was still there, but the warmth behind it had cooled. All right then, he said softly. Let's see where this goes. The storm clouds over the what now set darkened, promising an explosion no amount of humor could diffuse. The room had become electric, each word charged with unspoken fury. Trevor Noah's usual rhythm playful banter wrapped in charm had long since drained away. Across from him, Harry sat like a coiled spring, his expression unreadable but sharp enough to cut glass. Trevor adjusted himself in his chair, voice calm but measured. Asterisk all right. Harry, let's strip away the pretense. You've sat here for nearly an hour, giving short, biting answers to simple questions. And I've let it slide. I crack jokes, I smooth things over. But I'm starting to wonder, why did you even agree to this conversation if all you wanted was to sneer at it? Harry smirked, leaning back with crossed arms. Maybe I'm tired of everyone thinking they're entitled to my soul. Every time I sit in this chair, people want raw confessions, dramatic revelations, neatly packaged stories. I'm done playing that role. Trevor raised his brows. You call this done? This isn't honesty, Harry. It's hostility. I asked about your family, your kids, Megan, your future. You turned every one of those into a weapon. That's not pushing back, that's pushing people away. Harry's voice sharpened. Maybe people should be pushed away. They've done nothing but criticize, judge, and feed off me like vultures the monarchy, the press, even so-called interviewers hiding behind jokes. It's all the same circus. Trevor's smile thinned. A circus, huh? That's rich, coming from the guy who keeps selling tickets, the books, the shows, the docuseries. You built the tent yourself. Don't act like you're trapped in it. The crew shifted nervously as the temperature in the room rose. Asterisk Harry leaned forward, voice low, almost a growl. You don't get it. You've never lived it. It's easy to sit there with your jokes and charm, pretending you understand. But you don't. None of you do. Trevor's jaw tightened, patience fraying. He set his cards aside, clasping his hands. You know what, Harry? You're right. I don't understand what it's like to be born into that world. But I do understand something else: decency. And tonight, you've shown none of it. Harry's smirk faltered for the first time. Trevor's voice rose, not in anger, but in firm conviction. You've sat here. The world owes you respect, while you show none in return. You belittled every question, dismissed every topic, and carried yourself like a spoiled kid who thinks the world is beneath him. And frankly, I've had enough. The words hit like a hammer, the silence afterward almost suffocating. Harry blinked, visibly caught off guard. Trevor pressed on, tone-cutting but steady. Thought maybe this was nerves or an off night. But no, this is arrogance, pure and simple. And if you think this is how you honor your mother's memory or build a future for your kids, you're wrong. You're not tearing down walls, you're just burning bridges. Harry's face hardened, voice rising. How dare you? Trevor didn't flinch, leaning forward, eyes locked onto Harry. No, how dare you? You came into this space, into my show, with nothing but contempt, and I was ready to laugh it off, to give you the benefit of the doubt. But this isn't wit or courage. This is childishness, dressed up as rebellion. Harry's fists clenched on his lap, but Trevor kept going. I've interviewed presidents, actors, activists, people who faced storms bigger than most of us can imagine, and every one of them sat here with grace. You sit here dripping disdain, acting like you're too good for the chair you chose to sit in. That's not strength, Harry. That's weakness. The cameras rolled silently, capturing every moment. The crew barely breathed. Harry stood suddenly, his chair scraping against the studio floor. If this is what your show is, then I want no part of it, he said, voice sharp, trembling slightly with anger. I don't need to sit here and be lectured by a comedian pretending to be a journalist. Trevor rose as well, calm but resolute. Then leave. Because the one thing this show won't do is enable arrogance. Not yours, not anyone's. Harry's jaw worked, face red with fury. Without another word, he turned sharply and stormed off the set, his footsteps echoing in stunned silence. The camera lingered on the empty chair he left behind. Trevor exhaled slowly, then turned to the camera, expression softened but voice carrying gravity. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what you expected tonight, but I doubt it was this. Interviews are supposed to be conversations. What we got was a wall, and I won't apologize for calling that out. What I will do is apologize to you for wasting your time on someone who clearly doesn't value it. He gave the faintest shake of his head and sat back, the weight of the exchange settling over the studio like a storm that had finally broken. The feed faded to black, leaving viewers stunned, replaying the confrontation in their minds. Harry had come to tell his story. Instead, he had walked away with none.